up? What are you nerd against? This is the one and only Packer Girl 89, and I'm finally getting back to doing some book nerdigan discussion videos, and today's book nerdigan discussion video is going to be on Fallen by Lauren Kate. And yes, this is part of the hashtag AngelReadAthon, and if you have not read Fallen by Lauren Kate, please go read the book and then come back so we can talk about it. Excuse me. And as you can see on my mini popo, here is Fallen. The cover is so pretty. Yes, it is. And I gotta apologize, Lauren. I'm sorry it took me so long to do this book nerdigan discussion, but I'm finally doing it. And before I get into the actual discussion, I want to explain how I do these. Basically, I focus more on the actual angel mythology because for the hashtag AngelReadAthon, basically everything that I discuss here is going to end up coming up in my ultimate book nerdigan rant that I'm doing on this one book that is freaking evil. It is just freaking evil. It's probably one of the only books that I've ever been mad at in my entire life. I literally was pissed off at this book. And I want to use all the angel mythology from all the angel books that I read to explain why A Battle Angel by Scott Spears, the book I'm referring to, could be a whole lot better. Like what mythology from all the other angel books from the hashtag AngelReadAthon could make the book better. So yeah, that's why I'm doing my book nerdigan discussions this way. So there you go. Anyway, let's get to the actual book nerdigan discussion itself. So I just want to make sure Mini Popo is all comfy here. So it starts, Fallen starts off with the prologue taking place in Helston, September 1854, which we're going to actually go back to Helston a little later in the series, which is pretty sweet. And it's sad because we see how a young maiden, after she confesses her love to Daniel, that she spontaneously combusts. It's really sad. And then we get to the modern day, where we see our modern character. We're at the modern day, and we see Luce, or Lucinda, and she's heading to a reform school, which in reality, it looks like a prison. It really does. And something to keep in mind, I know this has nothing to do with angel mythology, but I just thought it was kind of funny, is that the Reds are always watching. And something that is going to come back later in the series, and this is why I'm mentioning it, is Ariane's scar. Because the skin on Ariane's neck is from the back of her left ear all the way down to her collarbone, and it's jagged and marbled and shiny. It's important. It's gonna come up why that's important, because angels don't usually scar, so remember that. And let's see, and where do I want to go here? Oh, let's see. Oh, and I think it's great. Like, Luce is been at the school for 45 minutes, and her mind was already juggling two different guys. And the whole reason she was at the school at all was because the last time she'd been interested in a guy, things had gone horribly, horribly wrong. She should not be allowing herself to get all smitten twice on her very first day of school. And then we meet Penn. And the thing with Penn is she's not actually crazy. And she says, no offense. And I'm the only kid at the school without a court mandate. Yeah, the kids at the school have a court mandate. And Ariane mentioned earlier that there's kids that aided and abetted terrorist acts, chopped up their parents, roasted them on a spit. And she's serious. And those psychos are under much tighter restrictions than the rest of the screw-ups here. And they call them the shackled. Yeah. This school is really psycho. I know this has nothing to do with angel mythology, but I had to mention that shit. Let's see. Oh, here it is. And then let me get back to Penn. And Penn says, and you might not think it, but being legally sane has its advantages. For example, I'm also the only kid they trust to be an office aide, which is dumb on their part. I have access to a lot of confidential shit. I love Penn. Penn is awesome. I wish she was my best friend. So here's the crime Luce committed, and this relates to the prologue. And I love when authors do that. When authors have shit relate to the prologue really fast. I love it. So, it had started out innocently enough, just two people going for a walk down by the lake. But it wasn't long before Luce started to feel the shadows lurking overhead. Then Trevor's lips touched her, and the heat coursed through her body, and his eyes turned white with terror. And seconds later, life as she'd known it had gone up in a blaze. And then we meet Molly. Molly, I gotta say, I'll probably say it again near the end of the series, is Molly has one of the most interesting character developments. I love Molly's character. Molly says, just trust me when I tell you, falling for Daniel would be a very, very bad idea. And Penny gets loose inside the file room, and Penny gets in Daniel's file, and it says inside Daniel's file, parents unknown, guardian Los Angeles County orphanage, criminal history, loitering on a public beach after hours, vandalism of a shopping cart, jaywalking. Like, what the fuck? So that's why he's there, is because of loitering and vandalism of a shopping cart and jaywalking? That is so freaking retarded. That's your justice system. That's your fucking stupid justice system at work. Usually the justice system is pretty good, but this is an example of when the justice system is retarded. I'm sorry. And then here's what, here we go. Here's Angel Mythology. This is what Molly says here. So what the hell, Molly muttered under her breath. She cleared her throat and stood up. Well, you've described Lucifer's mouth as the lowest place in the inferno, which is why all the traitors end up there. But for me, she said, like she rehearsed the lines, I think the most tortured place in hell, she took a long sweeping look back at Luce, should be reserved not for the traitors, but for the cowards, the weakest, most spineless losers. Because it seems to me that the traitors, at least they made a choice, but cowards, they just run around biting their fingernails, totally afraid to do anything, which is totally worse. And then there's a photocopy of an old-fashioned card from a library catalog. And if you've been following along with the hashtag AngelReadAthon, you're going to recognize a little something here. You're going to recognize the title. Gregory D. The Watchers. Yes, my fellow book nerdigans, the Watchers are coming back. Myth in medieval Egypt. In medieval Europe, Seraphim Press, Rome, 1755. For those that read the Embrace series, you book nerdigans know what the Seraphim is. And the shadows that have been following Luce cause a fire in the library. And Luce dreams about Daniel rescuing her, and he has wings. And Daniel saving Luce. She drops Todd, and sadly Todd is dead. It's sad. And I thought it was sweet when Luce was in the hospital that Daniel brought her favorite flowers, peonies, and Gabby gave her a mani. I thought that was sweet. And Cam is such a sweetheart. Like, I'll take him. I would not mind crying into Cam's chest. I would not. And Daniel totally came to the rescue at Todd's funeral to take Luce away. So this is what Luce says on the shadows. Once a day or so, I get these visits from these dark things I call the shadows. It used to just be at night when I was near water or trees, but now, her hands were shaking, it's practically non-stop. Usually they start out by hovering right about here. She reached around to the back of Daniel's neck and tickled him to demonstrate. Then sometimes they get really bold, and they shove right up against me. Recently, they don't seem satisfied until they've taken someone's life and knocked me flat on my back. Let's see. Do I want to mention this? Oh, so they went to do research in the library, and Miss Sophia's like, you're not doing social networking, are you? Those sites are the devil's work. I'm like, wow. That's going to come up again, trust me, in later books in the hashtag AngelReadAthon. I just finished one that mentioned something similar. And then Miss Sophia says this on the Watchers. I see you're looking into the Watchers. The Gregorys were a very influential clan, and I just happen to know of a Papel database. Let me see what I can pull up. And oh yes, historians have traced them back to the Middle Ages. They were a sort of research cluster, to put it in modern layperson's terms. They specialized in a certain type of fallen angel folklore. And then, oh man, I love when Daniel said to Cam, I said, keep your filthy hands off of her, you evil piece of shit. I was like, and then Fred says, after Luz had turned away, he said Daniel stumbled for a second there, but he shot right up and totally clocked Cam in the face. Nice. And then Luz asked, you're enjoying this? And then Penn says, my dad and I used to watch UFC. Looks like both of these guys have had some serious MMA training. Perfect cross, Daniel. And then she groaned, oh man, Penn, she said, someone's coming to break up the fight. Just when Daniel was bouncing back. I thought that shit was funny. And then Cam says, leaves a note, and he says, I'm saving you from social tonight. While the rest of our fellow students stage a Civil War reenactment, sad but true, you and I will paint the town red, and a black sedan with a gold license plate will bring you to me. Thought we both could use a dose of fresh air. And should have mentioned before, the red's been ducked. See for yourself, I took care of it. Like I'll take care of you. See you soon, I hope. Oh, man, I would love a man like Cam. I really would. And, like, the further in we get into this series, you will understand why I want a man like Cam. I do. Let's see. Oh, I thought this was hilarious. I have to mention this. So they're having a drink, and the screen door slammed, and the guy who had been smoking on the porch came back in. The taller one with oily black hair, a snub nose, and a very dirty fingernails took one look at Luce and started toward them. What are we celebrating? He leered at her, nudging her raised glass with his tumbler. He leaned close, and she could feel the flesh of his hip pressing into hers through his flannel shirt. Baby's first night out? What time's curfew? And Cam said, I love what Cam said. We're celebrating you taking your ass back outside right now. Cam said as pleasantly as if he just announced it was Luce's birthday, and he fixed his green eyes on the man who bared his small pointed teeth and mouthful of gums. Like, seriously, Cam is such a badass. He just took the punches and then started beating the shit out of him. Damn, Cam is awesome. I love Cam. I love him. And Luce is a fucking prude. Like, she couldn't handle it. Well, I would have been just like, holy shit. I would have been so turned on by that. Because my man would be protecting me. But Luce is prude. I understand. And she just ran into Daniel's arms, and Daniel saved her, of course. And Daniel glanced up, too, and scowled, only like he was merely trying to remember where he'd parked. But then the strangest thing happened. The shadows flinched backwards, boiled away in black splatters that pooled and scattered. Luce narrowed her eyes in disbelief. How had Daniel done that? He hadn't done that, had he? Yeah, and after years living on Skid Row in L.A., he said, shrugging, you might say I've gotten a magic touch when it comes to borrowing cars. Yeah, he's a little bit of a pug. Oh, Luce, oh my God, Luce said this. You stole Miss Sophia's car? Luce scoffed, wondering how the librarian would note this development in her files. And then Daniel said, well, we'll bring it back. Besides, she was pretty occupied by tonight's Civil War reenactment. Something tells me she won't even notice it's gone. It was only then Luce realized what Daniel was wearing. She took in the blue Union soldier's uniform with its ridiculous brown leather strap slung diagonally over his chest. She'd been so terrified of the shadows of Cam, of the whole creepy scene, that she hadn't even paused to fully take Daniel in. Oh my God, this kiss! I love the writing with this kiss. I have to read it because it was so awesome. He shook his head, but his lips were still so close to hers, and the look in his eyes was so alluring. It was almost as if he wanted her to have him first, and her body quaked with nerves as she stood on her tiptoes and leaned toward him. She put her hand on his cheek, and he blinked, but he didn't move. She moved slowly, so slowly, and as if she were scared to startle him, every second feeling petrified herself, and then when they were close enough that her eyes were almost crossing, she closed them and pressed her lips against his, and the softest feathered light touch of their lips was all that connected them, but a fire Luce had never felt before coursed through her, and she knew she needed more of all of Daniel, and it would be too much to ask of him to need her the same way, to fold her in his arms like he'd done so many times in her dreams, to return her wishful kiss with one more powerful. But he did. His muscled arms circled her waist, and he drew her to him, and she could feel the clean line of their two bodies connecting, legs tangled up in legs, hips pressing into hips, chests heaving in time with each other. I'm sorry, I'm a hopeless romantic, okay? That's why I have to read it. Daniels backed her up against the boardwalk's railing, pinning her close to him until she couldn't move, until he had her exactly where she wanted to be. All this without once breaking the passionate lock of their lips. Oh my God. And then he started to really kiss her, softly at first, making subtle, loving pecking noises in her ear, and then long and sweet and tenderly along her jawline and down her neck, making her moan and tilt her head back. Oh my God, he's gonna totally just freaking take her right there, right then and there. He tugged lightly on her hair, and she opened her eyes to glimpse for a second the first stars coming out in the night sky. She felt closer to heaven than she ever had been before, and at last Daniel returned to her lips, kissing her with such intensity, sucking her bottom lip, and then edging his soft tongue just past her teeth, and she opened her mouth wider, desperate to let more of him in, and finally unafraid to show how much she yearned for him, to match the force of his kisses with her own. She had sand in her mouth and between her toes, the briny wind raising goosebumps on her skin, and the sweetest spellbound feeling spilling from her heart. She could at that moment have died for him. And then the next morning, just one kiss she started, but then his lips were on hers. This is the next goddamn morning! And her second kiss in as many days, and where Daniel's kiss had been hungry and almost desperate, Cam's kiss was gentle and too perfect, and as if he had been practicing on 100 girls before her. What's wrong with that? I wouldn't mind either. But yeah, I kind of understand where Luce is coming from. I would take a passionate kiss like that any day. Let's see. Oh, and yet she felt something right in her rise up, wanting her to respond, taking hold of the anger she felt only seconds before and blowing it away into nothing. Cam still had her tilted back in his arms, balancing all her weight on his knee. She felt safe in his strong, capable hands, and she needed to feel safe. It was such a change from, well, every moment when she wasn't kissing Cam. She knew that she was forgetting something, someone. Who? She couldn't remember. There was only the kiss in his lips, and suddenly she felt herself falling. She slammed into the ground so hard the wind was knocked out of her. Raising herself up on her arms, she watched as a few inches away, Cam's face came in contact with the ground. She winced despite herself, and the early evening sun cast a dim, dusty light on two figures in the graveyard. Oh, Gabby said, I love what Gabby said. She said, and she has like the southern drawl too. She's like, how many times must you ruin this girl? And this is when Gabby was saying this to Daniel, excuse me. She looked up, blinking into the sun, and it's Gabby and Daniel, and then Gabby proceeds to kick Cam's ass. That was so fucking funny. I love that part, when Gabby was kicking Cam's ass. Or no, that was Gabby, I'm sorry, Gabby was saying it to Cam. My bad. Gabby was saying it to Cam. And then I loved it when Gabby was just kicking Cam's ass. That shit was so fucking funny. Okay, now we're getting to more, mythology stuff here. I'm sorry that we had to get the lovey-dovey shit out of the way, but I love this writing so much, I couldn't resist. So, here we go. So, Daniel says this. In the Bible, you know how God makes a big deal about how everyone should love him with all their soul? How it has to be unconditional and unrivaled? That request doesn't only apply to people. Like the serpent, he was damned after he tempted Eve, cursed to slither on the ground forever. I'm trying to say, I guess you could say I'm damned too, Luce. I've been damned for a long, long time. I made a choice once, a choice that I believed in, that I still believe in, even though I fall in love over and over again, and each time it ends catastrophically. The person I fall in love with each time is you, and I get to live forever. I get to live and to watch babies being born and grow up and fall in love. I watch them have babies of their own and grow old. I watch them die. I am condemned, Luce, to watch it all over and again and again. Everyone but you. You don't get to fall in love. You don't get to have babies and grow old, Luce. You come along every 17 years. We meet. We always meet. Somehow we're always thrown together, no matter where I go, no matter how I try to distance myself from you. It never matters. You always find me, and every time we meet, you fall for me. I can resist you or flee from you, or try my hardest to respond, not to respond to you. But it makes no difference. You fall in love with me, and I fall in love with you, and it kills you. It's not about the kiss this time. It's about what it means. In some lives we can kiss, but in most we can't. I must say, I prefer the lives where we can kiss. It depends on you, on how much you can see about our past, on how well you've come to know me, who I am. I wander the earth, always knowing at the back of my mind that you're coming. I used to look for you, but then when I started hiding from you, from the heartbreak I knew was inevitable, you started seeking me out. It didn't take long to realize that you came around every 17 years. It's not long enough for me to ever have gotten over the last time, just long enough that I would let my guard down again. For the first few seconds, every time I'm always so elated, I forget myself. Then I remember. All I can tell you is this. The only way to survive eternity is to be able to appreciate each moment. That's all I was doing. I can't laugh like that anymore. As soon as you show up, I'm overtaken. You knew it when I followed you up to the top of Corcovado in Rio, when you wanted to see the statue up close. You knew it when I carried you 220 miles to the River Jordan after you got sick outside Jerusalem. I told you not to eat all those dates. You knew it when you were my nurse in that Italian hospital during the First World War, and before that when I hid in your cellar during the Tsar's purge of St. Petersburg, when I scaled the turret of your castle in Scotland during the Reformation and danced you around the King's Coronation Ball at Versailles. You were the only woman dressed in black. There was that artist colony in Gitana Rue, and the protest march in Cape Town, where we both spent the night in the pen. The opening of the Globe Theatre in London. We had the best seats in the house. And when my ship wrecked in Tahiti, you were there, as you were when I was a convict in Melbourne and a pickpocket in 18th century Nimes and a monk in Tibet. You turn up everywhere, always, and sooner or later you sense all the things I've just told you, but you won't let yourself accept what you feel might be the truth. And back in Luce's room, The Watcher's Myth of Medieval Europe. It's Daniel's Ancestors book. It was heavy and smelled faintly of smoke. She tugged at the note that was tucked inside the front cover. Yes, I found a spare key and entered your room unlawfully. I'm sorry, but this is urgent, and I couldn't find you anywhere. Where are you? You need to look at this, and then we need to have a powwow. I'll swing by in an hour. Proceed with caution. XOXO Pen. Pen is just awesome, man. Pasted inside the front cover of the book was a sepia tone photograph. It was very old, carte de viste style picture, printed on yellowing albumen paper. Someone had scrawled in ink at the bottom, Helston, 1854. Doesn't that sound familiar? Yep. He flashed across her skin. She yanked her black sweater over her head, but still felt hot in her tank top. The memory of Daniel's voice sounded hollow in her mind. I get to live forever, he'd said. You come along every 17 years. You fall in love with me, and I with you, and it kills you. Her head throbbed. You're my love, Lucinda. For me, you're all there is. He's damn, Lucinda, Miss Sophia said in a surprisingly cold voice. You both are. And Pennyweather! It was Miss Sophia. She was gaining on Luce and calling back over her shoulder, where Luce could see Pen carefully working her way over a fallen tombstone. You're slower than Christmas coming. I thought that was funny. No, he pulled her back. Don't leave. It's just that we've never gotten this far. This is what Daniel's saying. Will you say it again? He asked almost shyly. Will you tell me what I am? Lou says it. You're an angel. Yes, Daniel is an angel, she repeated slowly, surprised to see Daniel closing his eyes and moan in pleasure, almost as if they were kissing. I'm in love with an angel. But in my dreams, your wings. And then the locusts are coming. Yep, you have lots of locusts are coming. And this is what Daniel says on the shadows. It's the first lifetime when you've seen them. Those are the shadows the announcers have summoned to battle. And it's not a little truth, Miss Sophia said, and you will not survive it, as you have not survived it in the thousands of years since the fall. And why did you call an end to the truce? Daniel called to Cam. Well, this is what Cam says. Oh, well, you know what they say about desperate times, and watching you plaster her body with those perfectly angelic kisses of yours, it made me feel so desperate. And then Ariane said, at stake? If they win, it's hell on earth, the end of the world as anyone knows it. And then Daniel basically tells Lou she has to go. Let's see. Trying to see here. Oh, here we go. I gotta read this. So Luce looked at Ariane and Gabby for help, then shrank away from them as a host of silver twinkles began to flow over the roof of the mausoleum, and like an endless stream of fireflies released from an enormous mason jar, they rained down on Ariane and Gabby, making their eyes shine. It reminded Luce of fireworks of one 4th of July when the light had been just right, and she looked into her mother's irises and seeing the fireworks reflection, a booming silvery flash of light as if her mother's eyes were a mirror. Only these twinkles didn't peter into smoke like fireworks. When they hit the cemetery grass, they bloomed into graceful, shimmery, iridescent beings, and they weren't exactly human shapes, but they were vaguely recognizable, gorgeous, glowing rays of light, creatures so ravishing that Luce knew instantly they were an army of angelic power, equal in size and number to the great black force behind Cam. This was what true beauty and goodness looked like, a spectral luminescent gathering of beings so pure it hurt to look directly at them, like the most glorious eclipse of, or maybe heaven itself. She should have felt comforted standing on the side that had to prevail in this fight, but she was starting to feel sick, and Daniel pressed the back of his hand to her cheek. She's feverish. Let's see. Holy shit! Then Miss Sophia killed Penn because she was slowing them down. Oh my god, that was awful! And then Miss Sophia said, messy but necessary. Yeah, she stabbed her, basically. Or no, not stabbed her. She slit Penn's throat, excuse me. Messy but necessary. And that's your own fault, dear. Trust is careless pursuit at best. At worst, it's a good way to get yourself killed. Let's see. Where did yes. And she reached below the altar within it and returned with a thick length of rope. Don't wiggle now. And, yeah, she tied loose. And she's gonna be a sacrifice. And yes, it's all according to fucking plan! Eisen style. I would say it's nothing personal, Lucinda, but actually it is. I've been waiting a long time for this moment alone with you. I just want eliminated. It's Daniel I want freed up. I should like to have a word with whoever thought putting the fate of all of our eternal souls in the hands of one lovesick pair of infants was so brilliant an idea. If wanting to bring to a final head the longest, greatest battle ever fought means I'm crazy. They said it would be, Luce said they said it would be hell on earth, the end of days. And then Miss Sophia said, it would seem that you would, that way to you now. Is it such a surprise that I'm one of the good guys, Lucinda? And then Luce says, if you're on the good sides, it doesn't sound like a war worth fighting. And then Miss Sophia said this, your death may be just the push Daniel needs, a little push in the right direction. And then she says, they want the balance to be tipped? I'll show them tipping the balance. And then Luz says, but I'll just come back. Daniel told me in 17 years. And then Miss Sophia says, oh, no, you won't. Not this time. The first day you walked into my library, I saw something in your eyes, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I've met you many times before, Lucinda, and most of the time you're a downright bore. This time you had something of an edge, a genuine spark, but it wasn't until tonight, that beautiful slip-up about your agnostic parents of yours. Well, my dear, the reason you come back again and again is because all the other times you've been born, you were ushered into religious belief. This time, when your parents opted out of baptizing you, they effectively left your little soul up for grabs. No ritual to welcome you into religion equals no reincarnation for Luz. A small but essential loophole in your cycle. And when you die tonight, you die. That's it. Kaput. In this lifetime, you're nothing more than you appear to be. A stupid, selfish, ignorant, spoiled little girl who thinks the world lives or dies on whether she gets to go out with some good-looking boy at school. Even if your death wouldn't accomplish something so long awaited, glorious and grand, I'd still relish this moment killing you. Fucking A. Miss Sophia is a bitch, and that's something that's throughout the frickin' book. Yay! Daniel saved her! And he's fucking shirtless and sexy! He's in white linen pants, but yeah, he is sexy. And I could say that because he's immortal, so fuck you. And Luz says, then what kind of angel are you? And Daniel says, I'm sort of in between gigs right now. And Gabby's wings, let's see. Gabby's wings, they are broad and plush and 3 times the size of her body, and they were feathery with soft scalloped edges, and the way Angel's wings looked on greeting cards and in movies, and with just a hint of the palest pink around the tips. And let's see. And then Arian's wings were smoother, sleeker, and more pronounced, with more pronounced edges, almost like a giant butterfly's, and partially translucent, and they glowed and cast shifting, opalescent prisms of light on the stone floor beneath them. And let's see. Yeah, they were basically badass. And this is what Gabby said about Sophia. They are crazy but very ambitious. She's part of a secret sect. I should have realized it sooner, but the signs are very clear now. They call themselves the Zamalium. There we go, Zamalium. They dress alike and all have a certain elegance. I always thought they were more show than anything else. No one took them too seriously in heaven, but they will now. What she did tonight was grounds for exile. She might be seeing more of Cam and Molly than she bargained for. And Daniel says this, Luz, we're all fallen angels. It's just that some of us are on one side and some of us are on the other. Roland is on the other side, even though he's their BFF. And Ariane says this, we'll get him back someday. So that whole fight out there was just one of the many battles we wage against the demons. And nobody won. And nobody ever wins. That's what Daniel says. It's close to impossible for one angel to extinguish another. It's just a lot of beating until everyone gets tired and calls it a night. And the truce we called after the battle applies only to angels. And now that so many know about the change in your mortality status, there are a lot of bad ones out there who will be interested in you. And Daniel buried Penny next to her dad. Penny next to her dad because her dad was dead too. I didn't know if I mentioned that. And Mr. Cole is going to handle Luz's parents, and Luz has to leave Sword and Cross right away. And Daniel says this isn't goodbye for good, Luz. I hope it's not even goodbye for long. We'll just have to see how things develop. And please don't worry. I will always come for you. I won't let you go until you understand that. And Mr. Cole will be waiting when we reach the plane. This is our last chance to be alone. I thought we might say our real goodbye here. I'm going to give you something. And he gave her a silver medallion, the silver medallion she'd seen him wear around school. It was a locket with a rose engraved on the face. It used to belong to you a very long time ago. And inside the locket, it's a tiny photograph inside, and behind a glass plate, it was the picture of the two of them, looking not at the camera, but deep into each other's eyes and laughing. Oh, it's so sweet. And Daniel said, whatever happened between you and Cam, it wasn't your fault. Somehow he held on to a lot of his angelic charm when he fell. It's very deceptive. Let's see. Daniel says, I don't know how long it will take to catch you up on to everything that's happened in our past, but in the meantime, if you feel an instinct even about something you think you don't know, you should trust it. You'll probably be right. I'll try to be there to help you, and I'll send word as much as I can when I'm away. And Lucy, you possess your past lives' memories, even if you can't unlock them yet. If something feels wrong to you, stay away. And Daniel's going to find Cam. And he says we have to find more things to take care of. Let's see. And then everyone says goodbye to Luce, which I thought was sweet. I love what Arian says. She says, don't do anything stupid like turning into a pile of ash. And Mr. Cole says he was in the U.S. Air Force 59th Division. That's pretty awesome. My wife always tells people not to get me started on my flying days in Nam. But we got a long flight, and I've got a captivated audience. You mean a captive audience? She slipped out. Luce slipped out. Good one, Mr. Cole said. I'm kidding, he said, laughing heartedly. And then the epilogue, just like the prologue, and I like that this is consistent throughout the series, is from Daniel's point of view. And he's at the cabin watching Luce sleep. And though Cam possessed the power to have simply appeared out of thin air at Daniel's side, Daniel pushed to open the window further to allow him to climb through. So much was pomp and circumstance these days. It was important for them to both be clear that Daniel had welcomed Cam in. And Cam's face was still cast in shadow as he showed no sign of having traveled thousands of miles in the rain, and his dark hair and his skin were dry, and his auric wings, compact and solid now, were the only part of him that gleamed, as if they were made of 24-karat gold. And though he tucked them neatly behind him when he sat down next to Daniel on a splittering wooden box, Cam's wings gravitated towards Daniel iridescent silver ones. Let's see. And this is how it ends. Cam held Daniel's eyes and rubbed his jaws, chuckling cruelly under his breath. Oh, Daniel, your short-sightedness surprises me. You don't have her yet. He stole another long glance at Luce. She may think you do, but we both know how very little she understands. And the truce lasts 18 days, Cam said, though I have a feeling we may need each other before then. And then he stood, shoving the box back with his feet. The scraping along the ceiling over her head made Luce's eyes flicker, but both angels ducked back among the shadows before her gaze could settle anywhere. They faced each other, each still wary from the battle, each knowing it was a mere taste of what was to come, and slowly Cam extended his pale right hand. So, here's the thing with this book. This book is more... it took forever to get to the supernatural stuff, which kind of frustrated me. We're going to get to the more supernatural stuff in the next book, Torment. But this book overall I thought was good. I love the writing, Lauren Kate's writing. It's really addictive when we get to the supernatural stuff. So I want to know what you nerdigans thought of this book. Did you like this book? Were you... do you like the mythology so far? What do you think of the past life scenario? I'm curious about that. So anyway, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll subscribe to Nerdigans Inc. And if you want to, if you like what I do, make sure you donate to my Patreon and become a Nerdigan today. And if you want to see any more of the shenanigans I cause on the internet, go follow me on Twitter. Everything is in the description box below. And I will be seeing you in the next book Nerdigan discussion video, which will be Torment by Lauren Kate. I will be seeing you Nerdigans later. Bye!